Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the podcast, The Endurance of Labor Laws. I'm your lovely host, Lesley Sullivan, and today is episode 112, and we are going to take a look at the United States Federal Judicial Districts. But first of all, let me give a big shout out to my listeners because you guys are awesome. So a big shout out to Florida, New York, Illinois, California, in terms of countries, the United States, Canada, and the Russian Federation. And I also want to lift up here just a note that June, let's see here, is National Camping Month. So if you have not gone camping, feel free to go. It's wonderful outside. So there are different types of campers you can get. You know, there's like those mobile home looking ones or RVs, and then there is what is called a fifth wheel. Those are fun. I think those are really good to have. So if you have not gone camping, definitely go, especially go to like a national park or something. They are very pretty. But let's go ahead and start on this puppy here. Again, we are talking about the United States Federal Judicial Districts. So it says, for purposes of the federal judicial system, Congress has divided the United States into judicial districts. There are 94 federal judicial districts, including at least one district in each state, the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, 3 territories of the United States, the Virgin Islands, Guam, and the Northern Mariana Islands, have district courts that hear federal cases, including bankruptcy cases. Only 2 districts have jurisdiction over areas outside the state in which the court sits, and there are 2 of them here. It says the District of Wyoming includes all of Yellowstone National Park, including areas in Montana and Idaho. The District of Hawaii includes Midway Island. I'm not sure how to pronounce this one. I think it's Palmyra Island, and a number of other uninhabited Pacific Island possessions of the United States. Each district has its own United States District Court, with a bankruptcy court under its authority, including judges, clerks, court reporters, and other support personnel, all employed by the judicial branch of the government and overseen by the administrative offices of the courts in Washington. Let me rephrase that. The administrative office of the courts in Washington, D.C. There's also a United States attorney in each district who acts as the federal government's lawyer in the district, both prosecuting federal criminal cases and defending the government and its employees in civil suits against them. The U.S. attorney is not employed by the judicial branch, but by the Department of Justice, also known as the DOJ, and that is part of the executive branch. Now, we have talked a little bit about attorneys, especially when they work for the Department of Justice. That was mentioned in a previous podcast. So these are employees of the federal government. So it is a public sector job as opposed to private sector job, right? It goes on to say each district also has a United States Marshal who serves the court system. Now, I was not aware of that, so I'm learning stuff as I go along. It says here that the United States Federal Judicial Districts, that they were in charge of the census from 1790 to 1840, but that changed after the passage of the Census Act of 1840. And it says here a central federal census was formed to take charge of census activities. And then this lists the districts. There's quite a few. Like, for example, California has a bunch of seats there because the state is so large in terms of population density. And, you know, like, for example, New Hampshire, they only have 1 seat, which is in Concord. So New Hampshire, not heavily populated, of course. So there is that. So that is it for this podcast. Like I said, short and sweet, to the point. But I will say this. In regards to your federal judicial districts and your judges, I do think you should look up your judge in your area, because you need to know who is hearing these cases and what kind of decisions are they making and judgment calls are they making. And what I would do, and what I think is kind of neat, is you look up your judge and you see where did they go to school. Because sometimes you can tell how a judge is going to rule on something based on the law school that they went to. So if they went to a conservative school that focused on the Constitution and protecting all rights and not being progressive, then you know what kind of judgments they're going to make, which typically are going to be mild and normal and follow the U.S. Constitution. Whereas if you have a judge that went to a crazy liberal nutbag school, like extremely progressive, then you know that pretty much almost all the rules go out the window, and they don't really believe in the Constitution because they don't believe that it is a valid document for whatever reason, even though they are supposed to uphold the Constitution. Because what's interesting is that a lot of these judges that don't believe in the U.S. Constitution, I guarantee you, if they were being sued or if they had to defend themselves, all of a sudden they would believe in the Constitution of the United States, and they would also believe in the Constitution of their individual state, like where they're from. Like, for example, the Constitution of Oklahoma, I do not think is written as well as the Constitution of Texas, because Texas can secede at any time. So that's why Texas is pretty blunt about a lot of things. And they always say, like, don't mess with Texas or something like that. There is a reason why. They have some very interesting laws. And they very much know that they are guarded and protected by their state constitution. So God bless them for that. We love Texas very much here, our lovely neighbor to the south. So definitely very interesting there. But that is it for this podcast. If you do have any questions, do reach out to me. If you would like to be on the show, for sure, contact me. There should be a message me button on my podcast as well. But until next time, I pray that you're happy, healthy, and whole, that you have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.